How do you pronounce your last name correctly?
So, so
I know there's a few layers to that,
well, yeah,
probably.
I was like the easiest way.
Yeah.
So Tahir would be with the English kind of accent.
American white
Tahir,
accent.
yeah.
And
Otherwise,
what?
it's Tahir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like it's with a little bit of a twang.
Tahir?
Tahir, yeah.
Tahir. Wait, no,
Yeah.
is there
Oh,
Tahir? Or that's
Tahir.
still hair?
Tahir.
Tahir. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay.
Yeah. But you can say Tahir, don't worry about it. Yeah. Even like my actual name, so Sarvat is
Uh-huh.
obviously like the very English way of saying it.
Yes,
But
yes.
when my like parents call me or anything, it's Sarvat. And there's a roll of the tongue.
Wow. Sarvat.
Sarvat. Yeah.
Sarvat.
And so the T on the end sounds like a TH, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah.
Sarvat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
But again,
Sarvat. That this is.
it's
I didn't
Sarvat.
practice enough.
But honestly, no stress, man. Just Sarvat Tahir. There you go.
OMG! I'm so embarrassed.
No, not at all. Don't even. Yeah.
I'll be practicing from here on out. Um, well, introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, no, my name is Sarvat Tahir.
Okay, perfect. So
What else
we're
you
so
want to know?
no, that was everything. This is everything already. Well, I'm so excited to have you. You're the Canadian national Catan champion, reigning
Yeah.
champion for the last couple
Yeah,
years now because of
thank you,
COVID. How's that been for you?
It's been awesome, honestly. Like now that I've had like 3 years to kind of enjoy it and do things like this podcast, and I've been invited to a couple of other like exciting things. Like Gagheads invited me out to a couple of games, and I've
Yes.
done videos, and I've done a couple of other interviews. I'm kind of like, how do people enjoy this in just 1 year? Like, I'm still enjoying it. So yeah, technically I'm 2019 Canadian national champ, and I was supposed to do Worlds in 2020 in Malta, but obviously we know, good old COVID
Things happened, yeah.
year 2020, what kind of went down with that. So they postponed it. So I get to enjoy for a little bit longer.
One more year, another year.
Yeah, exactly. A year and a half almost, actually, because it's going to be 2022 November before we get to Worlds.
Yeah. So you have such a pleasant energy, and I'm sure there is a lot of excitement that comes with being a champion. Do you think that there's any downfalls to being a champion? Like, I've played games with you, so I do feel like maybe that I've noticed the robber comes your way a lot more often. Is that something you see?
Yeah, as a champion, you really got to become best friends with the robber. Me and the robber, we go way back, and I'm trying to befriend the knight here. Honestly, like I think that's just the biggest thing. You hit the nail on the head, is that I get targeted. And so instead of like typically you should be playing a board, right? And keep in mind the players that you're playing. Like I'm not saying completely ignore the fact of, any achievements at the table, but at the same time, the board from round to round can change so quickly.
Yeah.
That if you're just solely focused on, for example, me, you're going to forget what everyone else is doing, right? And so then you're not necessarily going to give yourself any advantages either, because you're just going to hold both of us back. But yeah, I mean, it's all good. When I play family and friends, I swear to God, everyone out loud, our goal is Sarvat loses.
Oh, there. That's it.
Who wins?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't win.
I love
they're
it.
quite content.
How did Catan get brought into your world? Because I'm sure you weren't born with a settlement in your hand. So let's find out a little bit more about Sarvat.
So I was actually introduced to Catan 2018, believe it or not.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. Fairly recent.
Before I took the title of Canadian National.
Yeah, you just came in.
I was a year and a half, like even just so a friend of mine had actually brought it over after Christmas. So it was probably like January of 2018, sat down and they were like, Sarvat, you would really like enjoy this game. So I love board games. They said, bring it. We played, hooked. And then very quickly, I found that as I was playing, I was actually struggling to play with friends and family. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but just because I was like, you shouldn't do that. You should do this.
You wanted to play hard.
Yeah. I was thinking about the game very quickly, so differently than how I find everyone else was playing.
Yeah.
And I'm a real estate agent in real life. And I had a client actually participating in a charity. And it was a charity for kids. And the charity was you play Catan.
Oh my goodness. So please don't tell me you just went and beat all these kids.
So I it wasn't kids, it was adults, but I thought, you know what, it's Catan. I'll play some different people and like I can then really gauge like either how good I am or how bad I am, right? And
for sure.
Really easily. And I went and I played this tournament and I ended up going 3-0 in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
And everyone, I had a target on my back.
Wow.
So needless to say, I went undefeated. I went into the semis. They completely boxed me out, the table.
Wow, no way.
I think I got like 4 points in the semis. And I left and I was like, what the hell? I was like, what was that?
Yeah.
But I had never played in a tournament. I had never played with other people. So to me, I didn't understand the structure. I didn't understand what I needed to do to kind of advance. And so then the second tournament I went to, I learned from the first tournament.
Of course.
And I ended up winning the entire tournament. And so I only played in 2 tournaments.
Oh
and
my goodness.
Nationals. And then I was just grateful to be at Nationals.
Yeah.
I was a little kid in a candy store, like, oh my God, these are vets. I'm going to learn from them. I'm just grateful to be here. And next thing you know, I'm just winning. And I'm sitting
next thing you know.
And I was like,
wow.
Holy shit, I have this game. If I don't make any mistakes from this point forward, I should have this game.
Wow.
That was it. So a year and a half.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I know you said that you went in and you were just going to learn and you're playing these vets. Yeah. Was there any part of you though that was like, I want to win this thing?
I mean, you always hope to win, right?
Of course,
not try to win. I was definitely like, I want to try to win, but at the same time, I was keeping myself in check as well. And I was like, look, like I've only been playing for a year.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so like learn and take from them and just have fun with them. Ultimately, at the end of the day, like even right now as a Canadian champ, I still just tell myself I have to have fun. When I
my goodness, fun,
what's the point, right? Like
yeah, that's awesome. I think that's a really great life lesson in general, though, is like when I think, at least for me, is when I'm just enjoying things the most, I feel like I find the most magic, or just if as long as you're having fun, it's like, what else do you really need? You know, there's no complaints after that, you know.
Life is already so stressful. And I mean, look
oh my goodness, completely.
Right. And if you're not having fun with life, or if you're not enjoying it, that's the point. And it really kind of puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think Catan is such a great way to, I've learned through the years, I've been playing a little bit longer, but one of the things I've loved about Catan is, well, I've never played competitively. Like, of course, like you said, I've always played to win. Trust me. And I've also been a person that I've put the robber in the desert, just because I've always played Catan to bring friends and family together and stuff like that. But what has it been like for you to have Catan now and such, I guess, a real part of your life, if you will? Like you said, you've been doing podcasts now, getting to now, unfortunately, you haven't gotten to go to Worlds, but now getting ready for that. I'm sure there's some training and whatnot, playing Catan more for like learning strategic gameplay, I would assume, and stuff like that. How's that been for you as well?
So it's been interesting. I think the hardest thing for me was finding people who could challenge me.
Ooh, yes, girl.
Right? Like,
yeah.
And it's not to say that people suck. People don't suck.
No, right? But there's a different level of...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And so I've kind of, like, for example, my wife, she's just like, honestly, I really don't care about this as much as but she is who I...
For you, it's like you're looking at strategy in some moments, assuming.
Exactly. I've been thrusted into this competitive world where now I have to, even if I wanted to just play for fun, I can't, because now when people play me, they go, this is the Canadian champ, and they're trying to size themselves up with me, and not in a, am I better than her, but in a, oh man, like, let's, like, how do I play against someone like this, right?
Completely.
So
I've been there.
Exactly, right? But yeah, honestly, it's been good, because I think, like, for the most part, everyone around me, like, I'm trying to also, like, bring them along and, like, teach them little things so that they can be a little bit more competitive to help me out. But I've also created an incredible, I've met people, obviously, through tournaments and just online play, who take it a little bit more seriously, and they can relate to me. And so I've actually... it's been quite enjoyable. Like, it's been a struggle, but at the same time, I've met a couple of really good people who do challenge me and help me and we talk about strategies, and we talk about, what, like, mistakes you make in a game, and we really, like, analyze, like, the game to just try and help improve, right? I think it's interesting, like, to compare it to a sport where you're training.
Yeah, but it is a little bit, right? Yeah.
In a little bit of a way, it really is, right?
It's hard because it's like, it is a game. One of the things that I really love about this is I got in a chance to listen to other podcasts that you've been on. And something that I thought was really cool to hear is the aspect of losing, because when you lose, and the aspect of losing is sometimes just as important to winning, especially because you get to learn other players, what worked, their strategies, especially if you're going to play them again in the future, or just what works for you into taking to other games. And so what has that kind of been like for you in the little times that you have lost, and like, what have you learned strategically from that?
So it's kind of like you say, like, you sit back and you think, okay, what mistakes did I make? Sometimes, I mean, only one player can win. And sometimes you're kind of pigeonholed into a certain position on the board, right? That you're already kind of starting behind the 8 ball. But honestly, like, I welcome losing. Like, I'm not opposed to it. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not upset by it. Obviously, everyone wants to win. But one thing I can kind of pride myself on is I have this healthy balance. If I win, to me, it's a bonus.
Yeah, right? Sweet.
But, like, I'm not going to put, like, such a pressure on myself that, winning is the end all be all.
That's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I struggled with, if you heard one of the podcasts, is that I joined a group to play Catan, and I wasn't trying to win. And sometimes I would actually default to losing because I wasn't, I sometimes, because I recognize that people look at me and they go, oh, this is the Canadian champ. I also don't want to blow people out of the water. I don't, because to me, I feel like that's also humiliating for them, especially if they're taking it more seriously. But also for them, it's, if not humiliating, because that's a very strong word, but it's like embarrassing, or they get down on themselves, or they, because they're looking at it as I'm competing against someone on a world level where, you know, where do I stand and stuff like that. And so I was playing, and quite honestly, I was just enjoying the socializing aspect of it. And I would lose a lot because for me, I already have proven myself. I never looked at those moments as needing to prove myself. And instead it was COVID, and I was looking at those moments of trying to build a community. And so the interesting thing is, what I learned from losing is people begin to discredit you if you lose. They don't understand that you can hold a title. Only, like, just because you hold a title doesn't mean that you win 100% of the time. To me, you should know when to turn it on and when you need to turn it off. Right? And so, I really struggled because I had a moment in time where, because I wasn't looking at it as these players are playing the Canadian national champ and they're expecting me to show up to these games and represent what holding that title means. I found a lot of people were questioning whether I deserved the title or not.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. So there's like this layer that I didn't think existed, because to me, if you win, you win. There's no deserving of it. You do deserve it, right?
Completely.
You know, for the most part, being in 2021, I feel like people have grown and they've put a lot of sexism and things like that to the side, and there's a lot of equality and there's a lot of respect, you know. But I think there's this underlying layer of, and I think like it kind of touches on the story that I talked about earlier in regards to losing and everyone wondering if I deserved my title or not. There was this layer that was added to it that I was female, because there were males in the group. And quite honestly, I think I'm only one of two in this particular community. But otherwise it's predominantly male. And if one of these males lost, or if they lost a bunch in a row, like their credibility wasn't questioned. I have to say though, on a personal level, I've been treated great for the most part. People have been amazing. They're very welcoming. The Catan community is incredible. Like, very loving, very supportive. You know, obviously there's always going to be a little bit of social drama.
Of course.
Like hierarchy and like.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that's part of the social strategy.
But honestly, on a grander scale, I have to say, like, you know, for the most part, it's an incredible community to be a part of.
Yes, it is, for sure. I think, you know, well, speaking of social strategies, because there's a few, are there, like, what are some of your, do you have gameplay strategies that you're willing to share, that you look at? I think some things that come to mind, I know, like, playing the game, sometimes it's easy to be like, oh, that person's obviously going for longest road, watch out. Or they're a national champion, maybe you shouldn't be training with that.
I get called out a lot. Don't trade with her, she's sneaky.
I know, she's only got 3 points, but she's really got 7.
I think in general, like, it's interesting when you get to a certain level, you don't actually have to point out that, oh, this person's going for longest road, or
for sure,
they might be 1 point away from, you know, army, but for whatever reason we still do it, right? So, like, true. Right?
Yes.
You should, these players should be good enough that essentially there's a level of respect that we know that everyone knows what the hell you're up to. Like you're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
fooling nobody, right? Um, like strategies for me, I think my biggest like advantage is that I'm so fluid. I don't have one way that I play. I try and adapt to a table. I try and adapt to the people I'm playing with, and I attempt to adapt to the board that's at hand, right? And for me, I always say this, but I confidently say, round by round, Catan changes.
Yeah,
Who
for
you think
sure.
is winning in the beginning is not winning in the middle and is not winning in the end, right? And so, because of that, I think the biggest thing you do have to be very chameleon-like, right? Like
Facts. Yeah.
adapt to the game, adapt to the rounds. And if anything, I would think that that's my greatest advantage that I have. I feel like I do that very well.
For sure.
Yeah,
For
and the getting under
sure.
people's skin is like calling out their game. Like, I try not to do it, but if I get to a point where I feel like we're ignoring it, I will say it as a like, for
Yeah.
example, if everyone's like teaming up on me, I'm gonna be like, well, Gerard's at like 8 points, guys. Like, come on.
Yeah, that may have been a personal reference from the last game. And so what have you always been a board game player? What were you, and if so, like what were you playing beforehand?
Yeah, like always loved games, board games especially. Grew up like I have an older sister and an older brother. We just even when friends came over, we were all always playing cards, like some kind of social interactive game.
Yeah.
I was just playing like family games, and I'm not gonna lie, I was playing very old school games. My sister got married, I'd say almost 11, 12 years ago, and she had moved out. So it was really just me left in the house. And, eventually I moved out, and then you start your career and things like that. And as much as I loved games, I had kind of put them to a back burner for a little while, but I was playing games like Monopoly and
Oh my
like,
goodness,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, like, like
Good
little
old
family games like that, like Scrabble and, nothing like since I've got introduced to Catan, actually, I started looking back into games, and
yeah.
like there's so many games like Pandemic and like, oh my God, I have to like look at my pile over there, but like there's a ton of games that I'm just kind of like, what rock was I living under that there's all these cool strategy games that have
Yeah,
come out ever
really.
since, right? So I'm actually kind of in this process of being reintroduced to it. A couple of me and my friends, since the pandemic started, we kind of started our own little like board game group where we're
Oh,
like,
sick.
yeah, like where we're like, okay, if at the very least once a month, this can be our social outing and we can get together and let's bring a new game to the table and let's just try it, right?
Yeah.
There's a game Dice Thrones that I got introduced to that I'm a bit hooked to right now, but yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of it, but I'll check it out. We probably
It's
shouldn't
a
be
new
talking
one.
about it on the Catan branded podcast,
Yeah,
but
we'll chat later, my friend.
We'll circle back to that. Do you remember your first Catan game?
Yes. I like
Yeah.
vaguely. I find when you play Catan, you can't just play one game.
Yeah.
So I remember like the first 1, 2, 3 games, like, and they're probably all mushed together, but I remember like specific emotions and feelings and like wheel turning moments that I
Ooh,
had.
what were they? Can you share some? Did you
Yeah,
win them?
absolutely. I can't remember if I won or not, but so it was my friend who was obviously an experienced player. And then it was myself, and then it was Vicky, my wife, and then I'm pretty sure we had one other player. I can't remember. But so when I start a game, and I guess this is very telling. I remember specifically asking my friend, like, okay, but what's the strategy here? Like, he told me obviously like the rules.
Yeah.
I get it, but what's the strategy, right?
Yeah.
And he just vaguely, and again, until you play a couple of times, you don't understand it. He just vaguely was like, honestly, it's just get to 10 points, right? And he said, don't forget about the ports. But I feel like in the first game or two, I didn't understand the whole port thing, right?
Yeah.
And then I had an aha moment with him. He had a brick port and he was just trading like 2-for-1s, 2-for-1s, 2-for-1s. And I was like, okay, this is what he means by have a port. Like it's really advantageous for him, right? So yeah, it was little things like that. I remember analyzing him play. That's actually how I learned to play, was watching the experienced player at the table play. And then from that, I was learning as he was playing. He wasn't necessarily teaching me verbally, but he was teaching me just through his game style. And I don't think he realized I was watching him as closely as I was.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's so I remember a little bit of that my first game as well, because I played with somebody. I feel like that's the way you kind of learn, especially if you're playing with somebody experienced. Because like I just recently played with somebody where I was teaching them from like ground zero, and I was like halfway through, I was like, we really just have to play. Like you're like all of this stuff is like you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna ask me what you're gonna not know. You're gonna try and build a road or build a settlement, and you can't. It's just gonna happen. Yeah. But you're just gonna have to do it all.
Yeah. I always start with, look, this is gonna sound like a lot, but it really isn't. Like, just bear with everything that I have to tell you, but you'll get it in the first round.
Mm-hmm. And it really is an easy pick me up, but it's so interesting that it was your brother you said?
My friend.
Your friend told you about the ports, because I don't remember the ports being explained as very important to me. And I don't think that became part of my gameplay until like a few times in, which is it becomes really very supportive, really supportive.
Yeah, exactly. When I teach people, I'll leave certain things and I'll kind of ignore them, like the whole 7 cards and having above. I won't overwhelm them with it. If in the middle of the game, I'll be like, by the way, like make sure even when it comes to the ports, I will play an entire game, and then the second game I'll be like, now implement a port, right? And like I'll try and like, because to me those are strategy, that's not how to play.
Yeah, no, it's true. Right? It's true. Yeah.
I try and help out with strategy later, right? As they learn the foundation of the game. But yeah, oh my God, since I started playing, because it was so quick for me, everyone in my world, I spent like the last 2 years teaching everybody how to play. Like friends, family, like everybody,
Have you gotten a chance? So what does it look like for you when you're playing to like learn and play to like get strategy? What do you do?
It's so hard because an element of the game is people are emotional.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Like, especially,
but when I break down the mechanical part of it, the strategy that you attempt to bypass, like the emotional part of it, is really like the mechanics of how am I best using my resources so that I'm not wasting resources? How am I best using ports so I'm not wasting, again, resources, right? Because you have to think,
or a turn or something. Yeah,
absolutely. And you have to think that you only get a certain amount of turns and you're only going to get a certain amount of resources, right? There's not like an infinite amount of ore or wheat or sheep or brick or whatever it is, right? They're only going to roll so many times. And so if you've got it, how do you best use it, right? So I think when it comes to strategy, it's really trying to understand those fundamentals and kind of like, if I'm on a 4, what does that look like versus a 9 or an 8 or a 6 or a 3 or 11? And what resources can I sacrifice on an 11? What resources can I not sacrifice on an 11?
Okay, let me, excuse me. I'm like, yeah, all right. Say that one more time. Yeah.
Your face was priceless right there.
That was amazing. Yeah, I was like, you took me to school for a second.
Yeah, like I think that's what, for myself anyways, when I'm looking at the strategy part of it is, I mean, how else do you better your game at, and you know, there's people who are gonna say, and my father-in-law is famous. He just looks at me and he says, Sarva, you're just lucky. You don't know what you're doing. The dice, he's like, you paid the dice. That's what
you paid the dice. Well, that's such a big thing, because I would love to get your take on, because it's the great thing about Catan is
FYI.
What was that?
I was just gonna say, it always upsets me. I'm like, I do not pay the dice.
I believe you. I believe you. Well, that's the thing, because there's so many ways, and like you were saying before, there are so many ways to win. You know, like there aren't, being fluid and being flexible, the board changes turn to turn. And I tell people it's so hard to, like, it's a dice game too. So like, and it's a chance game, because like I've played games where I would never use a 3 really. If I had my ideal board, I would probably never pick a 3. And I've played games where there's like the 3, like, you win, and it's like, whoa. And, but there's ways to utilize that, you know, and I'm sure that person maybe had a brick board or what kind of, there are other ways that they got to that, just, But what is your take on that, on people saying that it is just chance, it is just luck? Because in a way it's not, but in a way it is.
So that's the thing. We can't ignore that, you know, the dice is an element of the game and that we don't control the dice, right? We can't be like ignorant and pretend that that's not a fact. But the point is, your strategy should be one that you begin to mitigate the luck of the dice. Facts. And that's where your strategy and your skill comes into play, is how are you incorporating the, what do you say? Like, how are you incorporating a strategy in order to eliminate your dependence on the dice?
Yes. Yeah. All right. One more. Yeah. OMG. I think that's a great way to say that. That's really perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and that's the biggest thing, right? But, you know, there's games that I've played where I could have the best setup, and if the 8s are dry, the 9s are dry, the 5s are dry, whatever it is, like there's always a certain number that you're kind of relying on, right?
Yeah.
If it's dry, what can you do, right?
What can you do?
Like you just kind of like flip the table. That's what I say.
Yeah. OMG.
Probability out the window.
Is there anything I haven't asked that you wish I did ask?
No, honestly, you're incredible. You're amazing. You asked some really good things.
Say that one more.
No, honestly, like, I don't know what people would want to know from me. I guess that's the thing. You know what? Invite me back. Put out a little, like, you know, questionnaire. What do you want?
What do the people want? Yes.
What do the people want to know?
I would love, my last question would be, what, to anybody listening that may have never played Catan, why would you recommend they play?
Honestly, it's one of those games that it keeps you intrigued. Like, you cannot play just one game. I think the design of being able to flip around all the hexes, and the resources are not in the same spot, and then the numbers are constantly rotating. You never have the same board twice. You know what I mean?
It's so real, yeah.
And where like you play other games, like let's say Monopoly, right? The properties are where the properties are. You just travel around in a square, and it's like, you just buy a property and then you have the hotels, and it's kind of like the same thing on repeat, which
it really is
so much Monopoly growing up, but
yeah.
I was like, Monopoly is the best, and now I'm like,
oh, that was me. That was me as well. Monopoly was my go-to game, and Catan took that over easily.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing is like, and that's why you should pick up the game of Catan, because it's just, it keeps you, it doesn't matter how many times you play, it keeps you engaged and it keeps you focused, and like it's just super exciting, because even if you win, you're like, oh, I want to play again, and especially if you lose, you're like, not redo, let's play this again. I did something wrong that last game, and I'm so
yeah.
Right? And next thing you know, it's like 3-4 games later, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
in the morning, shit, I got
it's too true. It's too true, especially with,
it's a good time. It's a good time.
Yes. I can relate to all of that. And I think one of the things that you said that I would love to add to is that I've noticed that it doesn't matter. And I think Guido actually said this in another episode when I had him on, is like, no matter what place you are, there's still a level of at stakeness. Like if you put on the desert and a 2 and a 12, okay, maybe but like when you're still in the game, somebody could have 8 points, somebody could have 7, you could be at 4 even, but there's still a level of like you getting resources, you're able to trade. Whereas in Monopoly, if you're in kind of last place or you don't have much money, it's kind of like, yeah. Like, essentially.
Do we need to finish this?
Yeah, do we?
Let's just say that you won.
Exactly. Yeah. I got $20. You got a few. Yeah. I'm bankrupt. Yeah. For sure. Well, but thank you for being here. Thank you for taking your time. And I can't wait to try and beat you again soon.
Keep inviting me to 6-player games. That's my kryptonite. I suck.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to add this as a bonus question. Can you talk a little bit about that? Why is it so different?
Why do I suck so bad at the...
No, didn't phrase it that way. But what is the difference? What do you think the difference in game style or play is?
So I think, so for me personally, when the board is that big, right? There's like, when I'm playing Catan, I'm like, what cards are being handed out? What strategy are you doing? And what's your next move? I'm playing your game in my head. I know what you should be doing or are going to do 2 steps before you are doing it, right?
Okay, keep that in mind. Okay.
Yes. With 6 players, for me, that's just a social game. We're no longer competitive because there's just too many players, especially online. Like online play and in-person play, 2 different worlds. Because online, someone's turn can come and they can click the dice, pass the dice, and I'm still like, what cards were given out? Like, where did they go? like, you don't even be like, oh, it's my turn. 3 people already went. Like, where?
Yeah.
So the whole trying to pay attention to what cards were spent and, what cards were collected and what even a development card, if it was used, it's hard enough online to keep track of 4, let alone go to a 6-player game.
Got it. Wow.
Right. So it's just for me personally. I don't want to like speak for other people.
No, I get that.
It's just too much for me. So those games are just very social. Like I'm like, you want to trade, take a trade. You want to do this, like no problem. I'll go this way, you go that way. Also, there's so much room on the board. This is something
there really is.
Yeah. In a 4-player game, there's the ability to cut you off, to take a settlement spot from you, which obviously improves my game because I'm taking a point away from you. I'm making you use double the resources to get that 1 point, right? Where on a 6-player board, when there's so much space, how am I doing that? So it's really just a free for all. Like you just kind of throw your cards. Do whatever you gotta do.
Oh my gosh, you're hilarious. You're funny. So there is your bonus content. Awesome. Well, yeah, I know. It really was.